I mean, you talked a little bit before about how using Pro Tools and other kinds of software at your disposal, but you've been at this for a while, so tell us a little bit about how this craft has evolved for you, because at one point the conversation was all about, switching from analog to digital. Now it seems more like it's just switching from digital to digital, and we're always hearing about these new things. So what's new to you, and what seems to be changing about this profession?
I think certainly the tools are always evolving. With me, it's particularly sort of things I can use to affect like sound effects, so it's reverbs and different ways of changing the dynamics of sound effects, but also like this fantastic environment. I mean, reproduction in cinema, if you get a cinema with, you can see how much effort is put into the sound system in here. If you get a really great theatre reproduction, you feel much more confident in being bold with your choices in a mix. So I think one of the things that was great about, we did Dolby Atmos on The Hobbit, and we sort of realized that the screens that are going to be playing back Atmos have, had a lot of input from, sound people and people who, address the acoustics, who address the type of sound systems used. And you knew that that reproduction was going to carry through. The way you're hearing it in the studio is going to carry through to cinemas. And so you can be more confident pulling sounds off the screen and knowing that they're not tiny little surround speakers, and knowing that all the speakers work in an auditorium, which isn't always the case in cinemas. You go into, multiplexes and, sort of little art house cinemas, they all have their problems with sound systems. And just having the confidence to be bold with sound, I think that's sort of gradually, the standards are gradually creeping up, and it's allowed that.
I mean, just a techie version for me as a mainly dialogue mixing. When I started doing TV and film mixing, there was a more traditional desk, rewind film, play off of Pro Tools through a desk and record on. We're using the automation on the desk to control a lot of aspects of the sound. You'd EQ it on the desk, you would send it to reverb units. You might have a lexicon reverb unit, which is a bit of hardware. And you just route the audio in a traditional fashion out of the desk to the reverb back into the desk. With Pro Tools advancements for me, there are things in there in Pro Tools that use the things called plugins now, and people have them within iMovie and so on. It's part of actually workflow for so many things now. And if I have plugins that have got good quality reverb, good quality EQ, equalization, I can do what I used to do through a traditional desk. I can do it all within Pro Tools, all within a computer program now, and it sounds good. And that was a big advancement. Even though it was all digital previously, now I can actually do it in an environment where it's more powerful for me and more controlled and faster.
Well, that must be empowering. We have filmmakers in the audience tonight who are probably thinking, well, that might mean it's sort of cheaper now to get these things done, so that there's a real value in that as well. So,
I think with having all these like new toys, and we talk about reverb units and plugins, the one thing that digital has brought is just you have so much choice of what you can try out and what you can play with, and I think some of the challenge there is time. Like if you're given the tools to experiment, I mean, filmmakers with sort of creative bents just want to try those tools and want to try different ways of doing things, and so the creative process has loosened up. So time-wise, it's not always that our processes are a little bit tighter time-wise, but the creative process is maybe blooming a little bit more. So it's not necessarily the time frames are shortening in terms of how long it takes to mix a film, but certainly you can be more expedient, but you can also be more experimental and try things and really try and be creative.
it's a real laboratory in that sense.